The purest democracy. Things are not ideal. Government has really gone wrong. Perhaps it was never great, but surely it was better. Now, for it to have degraded into its current state of disrepute, and that is putting it delicately, the design carried a subtle but consequential flaw from its inception. Just because something is flawed, however, does not mean it is without merit. It does not mean that the system did not have inherent integrity at the outset. A flaw does not demand that all must be discarded. From a wealth of evidence, we must now concede that the degradation within our governing institutions has grown truly treacherous. Integrity is altogether vacant. If we are still operating under that initial framework, those founding principles, something in its origin did not possess the foresight and depth of wisdom which we still seem to attribute to it. I dare say this is a blind deference. We can admire the strengths, but we must acknowledge the weaknesses also. Let us not practice a pseudo-patriotism whereby we glorify the past and merely settle for a future. America's founders were pioneering, harbingers of a unique and immense progress in many ways. The framework they conceived was visionary, a powerful foundation upon which to build a great nation. Yet there is a cruel irony here, which must be faced. That foundation we regarded for so long as faultless is now cracking. It is failing. You may think to yourself, no, we are failing it. And that is undoubtedly true. But this answer alone is insufficient. The fail-safes in the structure, it turns out, are not so fundamentally sound. Amendments have not proven enough to keep us on course. We are careening into peril at this very moment, iceberg dead ahead, and nobody seems to know how to right the ship. The problem, of course, is the system itself, which isn't allowing us to extricate ourselves from its increasingly obsolete clutches. As a nation, we are deep in the throes of an apathetic gridlock, our faith in the process smashed by session after session after session of corruption-laden policy failures. Our leaders are proving themselves to be failures, and we put them there. Does this render us the same? I am expressing here a pessimistic mentality, a subterranean fear we may well bear. But this is not the reality. We are not a nation of failures. Nevertheless, there is a psychological rut from which we are having difficulty escaping. Great success that lasts for many generations can induce a paralysis of hubris that fells empires. It has happened innumerable times. I don't think it's inevitable. It is merely likely, given historical norms. Reinvention is necessary, and that requires the downfall of a long-standing national egocentricity. If we fail to do such, we will go the way of the others. It is that simple. Today, I will propose a new government model. In all fairness, these probably aren't breakthrough ideas. No single component in the framework I will propose here is novel in concept. Perhaps the arrangement itself a restructuring and a redefinition of key pieces will have something to offer. It is merely another design, a hypothesis, an architecture of thought. More of us need to do this. More of us need to dare to cultivate and embrace a new vision for the future, as the light which has guided our fortunate path for so long is dimming. Hopefully you can see this too, even if acknowledged solely within the privacy of your own self. Recognition of impending crisis is the first step in taking corrective action. We the people have not fallen yet, and I say we consciously choose to change the paradigm that our nation may remain vibrant and vital for centuries to come. We have that potential. Let us discuss democracy. Democracy is hallowed, and it should be, because the basic idea is so solid and imperturbable in its morality that I think it nears earthly perfection. People say it is fragile. That is not so. Our democracy as it currently stands is fragile. The universal law of equality for all beings could not be stronger. The problem has been in the execution. We have not designed a perfect vessel to express the democratic ideal. The paramount weakness in the current design, the enormous flaw, is this: a general incapacity to quickly dislodge from public life those elected representatives who fail to serve with honor and integrity despite their pre-election promises. I know. All of us know this. It is no secret. I am not declaring here some watershed insight. Nevertheless, it is the fundamental problem. And we know it. So tell me, why do we continue to allow it, politician after politician, year after year? Why do we continue to operate in this societally degrading way? It's the way it's always been done. It's all we know. This tired sales pitch for governance complicates all matters of real progress, relegates responsibility, and kicks the can on down the road, so to speak. I do not need to elect someone else to speak on my behalf, nor do you. I do not need to elect others to make decisions that govern my existence for me. Neither do you. We can do it ourselves. Why do we need elected representatives who betray us on the regular to determine our fate? Why do we abdicate this most basic responsibility? Do you fear the power of the people? Do you fear the power of your own decisive ability? Most do, actually. This is but a mindset, a prevailing narrative, a false notion that we are incapable of self-governance. What we have done is elect corruptible individuals who, by the very nature of political machinations, are attracted to roles of power and material enrichment over selfless service. Exceptions in the historical record are there, but they are rare. Rather than elect persons, we should elect ideas. You see, right now we elect persons who then elect ideas. Cut out the corruptible middleman. Cut out the silly game of politics altogether. Manipulation does not serve the interests of the people. What is politics but manipulation? Political theatrics are not real leadership. Lobbyists are the actual power brokers in this game, the closed-door electorate of the rich and powerful. Here we see the injustice of inequality at play, the privilege of a few over the well-being of the whole. It is utterly anti-democratic. Somehow, though, their crafty messaging managed to fool a whole bunch of us into thinking that just a few deserved more. Much, much more. I propose this: one American citizen, one vote per one initiative. Every citizen can vote from age 16 and up. Voting is strongly encouraged as an important civic responsibility, but voting is not mandatory. It is a privilege to do so, since in this system, all are actually equal. No citizen of qualifying age is barred from the right to vote, including those deemed societally condemned, the sick, or the homeless, the supposedly suspect of mind, or the imprisoned. While citizenship is required, a home address is not. A criminal record does not deny the right. We vote on each and every issue ourselves. There is no electoral college foolishness. There is no gerrymandering. There are no closed primaries. We are presented with clear and compelling cases in writing and or video presentation, not paid-for commercial advertisements, nor anything smacking of propaganda for both sides of an issue. And we choose. We choose as an entire populace on each and every law modification or new policy proposal. Ballot initiatives are held quarterly. There are likely a number of initiatives voted on at a time, though things are never bundled together in manipulative bill packages, as is currently done. Initiatives are always voted upon individually. Ballots are tallied electronically. As difficult as this might be, we come to a consensus on a practical way to vote from the privacy of our own homes via a digitally encrypted method. This technology is available to us already. Such means can be met in this day and age. What is not so readily available is the faith of the people in a trustworthy process. So that hurdle will, somehow, have to be overcome. There is not a single voting day, but a voting week, once quarterly. Voting should not be at all oppressive in difficulty, but easily accessible and free of trickery. One should not worry about standing in a line for hours or having to miss a day of work simply to vote. All of these tactics have been historically arranged to disadvantage certain groups. This is well known. No more of that. The office of the presidency and White House should remain, but for certain specific leadership requirements, such as international diplomacy and emergency authority. The overall role of the president will be significantly different and surely reduced. Congress, the House of Representatives and Senate, shall cease entirely. As for the Capitol, it will make for a fine new D.C. museum. The Supreme Court may or may not remain. This will have to be contemplated. The current selection process for this small group of unusually exalted decision-makers strikes me as problematic, though courts do play an essential role in society, so I don't think the Department of Justice itself has to go. Suitable restructuring and overall scope can be decided upon. Since both chambers of Congress are replaced in this plan by the direct will of the people, The Supreme Court's role, just as that of the presidency, will alter in significant ways. Government entities will remain at the state and federal levels, but purely in service-oriented as opposed to legislative capacities. Governors, mayors, law enforcement chiefs, and so on and so forth will still be elected positions. State representatives of districts will no longer be needed, as there will no longer be house chambers where good ideas tend to go to die. These very chambers, state and federal, are the hotbeds of corruption and political tomfoolery that is making America stagnate. Without them, the role of presidents, governors, and mayors instantly becomes much more streamlined and pure in character, having minimized the unnecessary grift of political machinery in daily affairs. You surely are wondering some things. I can hear you asking some very good questions. What makes you think that society wants to take on this added responsibility of lawmaking, of self-governance? What makes you think that every citizen even has such an ability? These processes can be morally and logistically complex, complicated, and often mundane. And what makes you suppose that current government entities, who hold enormous personal power, are going to willingly relinquish their well-compensated positions, not to mention the ever-formidable gravity of historical precedent? What about the system of checks and balances we have, which intentionally keep the wheels of change from turning at too fast a pace? Let us address the first question, about society being willing to take on a plethora of choices, some of them real headaches and moral quandaries, on a quarterly basis. Material will be presented by small, selected groups of both conservative and liberal temperaments. This group will function in a persuasive role for their corresponding side of the argument. Not that issues must always fall along the traditional conservative-liberal axis, but in general, it tends to hold true. Each will make their own compelling, well-expressed case. A neutral group will serve as fact-checkers for both arguments. In order to be practical to the needs of the masses, an argument cannot be over a certain preconceived length. Usually a case will be presented in the form of a short essay of a few paragraphs, not hundreds of pages. The other side will present their case in similar fashion. It is certain there will be occasions where more complexity is called for, thereby an increased argument length. But the persuasive case must always be streamlined for the masses to grasp with relative ease and clarity. The citizenry is encouraged to vote not along traditional party biases, but on an issue-by-issue basis, pondered personally. Each voter can decide on any issue which they feel they have a good grasp on, as well as an opinion on the matter. However, not all issues on the ballot require a vote. If certain initiatives on a ballot are left blank, they simply were not voted upon. This is the voter's way of taking a pass on certain items beyond their interest or personal grasp. Of course, that which they do not vote on, they relinquish fully to others to make that choice for them. In the current system, people often guess on the more abstract issues or choose rather thoughtlessly. This removes that from the equation. You vote on what you choose to vote on. You vote on that which you personally comprehend and want to see move in a certain direction. People will become more civically minded when they know their value, one for one. They won't feel betrayed, but empowered. Young people will be thrilled that they are taken seriously and valued as voters with as much power as any. City dwellers and country folk will be equal. The rich person will be equal to the homeless man. The prisoner will be equal to the free man. This is the beauty and stark fairness of such a plan. I'm sure some will find this plan grotesquely egalitarian. My hope is that they will be humbled. This plan would likely be far more accepted by one side of the political spectrum than the other. I will leave the reasons for this to your imagination. The irony is that Republicans and Democrats both shall be no more. I suppose you could think of it as all of us becoming independents. The far lower number of still elected officials will no longer operate based upon party line narratives, but as pure public servants. They will be doers as opposed to politicians. It is not a matter of pretend that all citizens will take such a role seriously. A certain proportion will not be interested. That is fine. They relinquish their vote. They are always given the option to have a say on any matter they so choose. If things aren't going to their liking in matters of law, order, and justice, perhaps they will come to the table the next go-round in a more conscientious way. Will the current power structures in place simply dissolve their very existences due to some idealistic new proposal? No. The only thing that could bring about such change is a major systemic break, a revolt, an uprising, and I am not advocating for such. Should such a societal breakdown occur, solutions will be needed. I am merely thinking about such possible future solutions. Honestly, systemic breakdown of a major kind doesn't seem so unthinkable these days. The foundations beneath us are trembling. Lastly, if we did indeed have such a new system of self-government in place, let us say now for sake of example that it is up and running smoothly, the American people as a whole on board. What is to keep progress from churning too fast? If it is so easy to uproot and discard structures, however inept they may actually be, wouldn't so many consequential decisions made 4 times a year, those votes final and unimpeachable choices, cause an absolute chaos of unusually short duration upheavals? Yes and no. Initiatives will go out at a practical tempo. Actual lawful change, once adopted, still takes time to enact. Radical reforms will become less necessary as more unjust procedures are nullified one by one. Major government departments that actually provide useful functions will remain intact, subject to operational guidelines and funding determined by the populace. All processes of the House chambers will be handed over to the people. The president will work directly with the will of the people, as opposed to having to cajole uncooperative factions whose preferred state of being is willful inertia. There will always be a significant portion of the voting public who diligently inform themselves and vote on every single item. These voters will intrinsically have more influence in direct correlation with their greater civic efforts. Everyone has the opportunity to do so in their own due time, should they so choose. Some, just as is the case today, are not voters and never will be. And just like today, they relinquish all their rights to the decision-making of others. That is their prerogative. As far-fetched as this proposal may sound to reasonable and pragmatic ears, it cannot be denied that there is something to it, some elements that just might work better than what we have, and certainly be more equitable. If it really is just a purely fanciful thing, totally impractical, as many are likely to charge, I would like to see others conscientiously support or disavow parts of the theory and make their case. For any weaknesses, surely adjustments can be made. The truth is, this proposal is not outlandish in logic, only in societal precedent. To dismiss ideas of progress as childish naivete that will never work is merely more of the same behavior so woefully failing us today. We deserve better. The political process as we've known it has on occasion been fun, a fascinating human drama. But that is little consolation when the actual functionality of the system has been so corrupt, unfair, toxic, and generally miserable. Politicians are reviled. Why do we keep them? The plan presented here today is the epitome of the power of the people.